Yeah, stream died. It's back, but unlucky. Damn. Um, I guess the other one will be uploaded as mainline video or whatever. I guess. Yeah, don't play with F keys. I guess we can share it around. Um, Duck will. I don't even know who that is. We'll rejoin the chat. There we go. Oh, you missed Nokia. Whatever. It's disappointing. Okay, we're gonna switch back to main game.
The only other thing I guess I'll address here is it seems to be that House has advantage. I don't know if Borg is missing anyone. But it seems fairly solid. There's a couple of whelp spikes, but I mean, effective military strength by score range is pretty much just houses to run with. So we'll see what happens. It definitely seems that House
I agree. House is starting to win. I got a message from someone earlier about it. Yeah, I wasn't able to share it before. I guess I can now. I'll pull up the chart. Here we go. So
given that,
actually, I gotta link it to the other one, the one that's actually being shared.
Could be a fun one.
Is that on the page? Okay, cool. So what this shows us is that House effectively, like, more grumpy whales logged in than Eclipse people. And so this means that Well is probably going to lose the high tier, and then House can just push down. And the City 30 tier also favors House in terms of raw numbers. So on the face of it, I think Well just loses this. This is already the effective score graph. It's already this bad. I think it's going to go in the favor of House. And so EVH has to enter right now to bail out Well. That's the only way. So even if, for example, Eclipse wanted, Event Horizon wanted to hit Name Withheld or whatever, I don't think they really can right now. Yeah, look, they're piecing. So I don't think that'll happen. I do think EVH will go into House now. They have to. Otherwise, Eclipse is going to lose. And they just tied into half their sphere. So if I was in House's position, I would roll these guys and then I would take out EVH. Using the MDP as a pretext. Oh, the last one was without Eclipse? Okay, I'm just wrong. This is the accurate one. So based on these numbers, then... Okay, so House has a slight lead in the high tier.
Now, see, it's still worth pointing out that at about 1150 or 11,500 on score, House takes over.
House has a lead in the City 30s though, so I think they'll claw this back.
And winning the upper tier give them the opportunity to do some fun down declares and deal.
They don't even need to down declare. They outnumber them in the city this range. I think they're just not as active right now, but they will be later. Whereas high tier, there's so few nations that a decisive victory here is really decisive.
Seems like Whelp has a general advantage has the upper tier, which is interesting. I think usually we're used to seeing the upper tier be dominated. So I'd be curious.
Wait, did I name this part 1 or part 2? Because this is part 2. Oh, it is part 2. Okay, good. Nice. I was right.
If it's just by default gonna go to Whelp and they'll be
Actually, when did the other one cut off? I mean, it's on low latency, so it shouldn't have cut off like that quick. Whatever. I'll pull it up later. Um, good. I've called it that too.
Eclipse or TKR so that I spew propaganda.
EVH at this point has to go into house. They have to hit house because if they don't hit house, well will lose, and then house can chain into EVH using the MDPs the EVH signed as a pretext. So, like, let's just look at the web very briefly, and we'll like limit it to 20 nations so you can see. So this is house, right? Regardless of who attacked first, TKR or Eclipse or whoever, Event Horizon has now signed into them. They're defending them now. What the hell is that? There's probably a meme, but we'll tackle that in a minute. Oh, it's Legion of One. They just use the FARC flag. Anyway, because these guys are fighting now, if Well loses, then these MDPs will cause House to attack them. They're too big a threat to not do that. It's too good of an opportunity not to do that. There's no reason for EVH to go into Penta when they're certain to lose. Yeah, it would cause like that entire chunk of the web to lose. It's just such a huge mistake. Whereas if they can bail out Eclipse, they might earn Eclipse a favor down the road. There's a lot of incentives for them to just hit house now. And in fact, I would say the next 5-10 minutes is like when you would want to do it in their shoes. Why are Penta people trying to bite the hand of peace? Why are they trying to eat the dove of peace? Stop being stupid, Penta. Just let them deal with house and stop antagonizing them. I don't think Penta can go into house. Though, I mean, if you were really daring as Penta, though, if you really wanted to, like, have fun with the game, then Penta would then hit EVH. Yeah, you would have house hit well, start winning, EVH would then hit house, and then Penta would go into EVH. Penta would still lose, mind you. It would still lose. And probably house would lose too. But it would be extremely entertaining. Just to see how Singularity and the rest of them would respond to like Penta doing that. I don't think they would, because there's a non-aggression pact in place, but it would be extremely entertaining. Actually, oh my god, you're right. So if Penta said that these attacks by EVH on them were like aggression, and they activated their MDPs with Singularity, then Penta and Singularity could both go into EVH. But that would be guaranteeing Eclipse loses as well, which I don't know if Singularity will want to do, because Singularity has a tie to Eclipse as well. A weaker tie, but still. Maybe we might have to come in too if they did that. That's so stupid.
Hootmere is the one exception I have had to that rule of a 6-month delay on any project. Actually, I will take that back. Leon is here as well. It was ages ago, but Leon is these are the two people I have seen that can code in a reasonable time frame. Everybody else needs 6 months on top of whatever they quote you. Then you shall have it, Valini. Alliance Hunger Games or individuals?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. I think the game's politics hasn't been as interesting as this in quite a while. Like, this is one of the more predictable and quote-unquote boring wars of the past year. And it's still been very entertaining.
FA for every one of the top 48 and throw them in?
There's an DOW. Sorry. Let's check it out. Alliance Affairs.
FA or leadership?
LOD joins the fray. Khan.
Okay, all leaders. It'll be
Okay, nothing. That's disappointing.
does it, I believe, what I
Oh, it's on TI. I wonder what that beef is.
leaders, it'll go a little farther than 48 because you have trading alliances. But yeah, no, we can make that work definitely. Okay, there you go. We've got a plan for the next popular event. Valini's just popping off.
Their events are kind of boring. Royals events are always boring. Boring wars do make good case studies because they tell you a lot about how the different groups plan. There's also upsets, which can be very entertaining. I guess I'm calling this a boring war in some sense because it is very predictable, but in a lot of other ways, it's not boring, right? You have like almost 6 independent spheres with lots of different interests and goals, and then if you include important alliances within those spheres, there's like double that. For example, I think TGH's attitudes are probably very different from Singularities, and UPN and Name Withheld are very different. TI, TKR are very different. EVH Syndicate are self-evidently very different. If TS is chilling and doesn't build soldiers and isn't really wanting to go aggressive, and EVH is signing into another major sphere and looking at maybe hitting Penta, which is like not super important. EVH is obviously very much more proactive than TS.
This is you can't use this as a valid CB. You have been fired.
Make some events and Inquirer. Yeah, we could make some events. I don't know. I do the streams pretty routinely, and there's somewhat of an event.
And so we've taken care of that.
Yeah, we could do more games and stuff. That'd be cool.
Do more. Okay. Let's see who else is here. Let's see. Jarek is not here.
Khan is there. Invite
Khan
him.
is.
Valini
So
is there.
Khan, you may let Jarek know he has been fired.
I think there's not going to be too much more of interest. I think they burned through a lot of the topics pretty quickly, and they didn't know how to analyze the rest.
Let's see.
So, very disappointing. Royals out of steam. Oh my god.
I think that wraps up the
I forgot how
public
degenerate
humiliation
that
ritual.
chat was.
Oh, Chad. Chad has been fired.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna ignore Royal, and we'll probably disconnect from there in a minute. What about EVH? Where they're at? Where are they at?
There
well,
go.
it's been turn change. They haven't hit anyone.
We have
I presume they're probably not going to then.
publicly
If
fired.
they hit tomorrow, it's going to be too
everyone
late
who
to
needs to be
save
publicly fired.
Eclipse, in my view, or TKR if they're going to go on that side, or it'll even be, I think, a little too late to hit
Okay.
Penta unless they were going to try and get TS involved in the next 24 hours, which would be kind of a challenge in itself. Penta, I don't think they're. Maybe they could go in tomorrow.
Who else?
I guess.
Oh, you have pneumonia.
If Penta and House can get a win against Eclipse, they could then rotate and hit.
I have
Rose
neglected you for many years.
No,
News
they
by
how
AI,
do you win it
Monty.
from House's perspective?
You
would
have been
to
canceled.
Defeat Eclipse, then rotate onto EVH, and then after you've defeated EVH, you would then hit TS, and then you would take out Rose, and then you could take out Sang and the rest. if you wanted to roll everyone that's
There
on the
we
map,
go.
everyone that quote unquote like did you wrong, that's how you would do it. Or
Another
alternatively, they
Monty
would take out EVH and then they would go into Rose.
Monty
If they wanted to make a deal with TS and say like, you guys don't want to
plan that
save
did not
Rose,
work
do you?
out.
Or vice versa with TS, right? Where they'd hit TS and they'd go to Rose and say like, you don't really want to defend TS, do you? And that would be like a stopgap until they get around to Rose. So I mean, we could be seeing here like step
There we
one
go.
and like TKI just rolling the whole
Yes,
game,
Royal Orbis News,
which I know is
spring
ambitious, but like
cleaning.
it's possible. There are like
That's right,
ways of doing
Pugmia,
it
thank you.
if the
Yes.
game doesn't
How silly of me.
sort of realize. In my view.
You didn't pay me.
Though I mean,
Zig.
technically, I'm in the minority right now in being right that House had a chance of winning. Every other commentator was saying House had no shot of winning this thing. So that's cool.
Monty, how much more time do I need to bluster for? 40 seconds. Okay.
No, Royal,
can
don't
make it,
bluster.
guys.
Just go
We
away.
can do it.
I thought there would be some huge
Let's
debate.
see.
That's why I put Royal
Well,
on. I thought they would be like there'd
We're
be
gonna
arguments
just
from like TS,
kind of have a
TKR,
very
and like
long-winded
EVH,
closing.
and
I
Eclipse people.
appreciate you folks
There's
for
none of
coming
that.
out.
They're so boring.
I hope
Alright, they're winding down now, so I'm just gonna disconnect. Okay, recapping. You mean shouting matches? Yeah, well, I can take those headphones off. They are shouting matches, but they're also more nuanced than that. Like for example, when Tartarus came on, like he swore a bit and he was having fun with it, but he also hinted at like why they protected Penta. Right? He said, well, EVH did this exact same thing to us 6 months ago. And so if you just add an EVH person into that, then they'll be like, well, the reason we did it 6 months ago is because you did this 9 months ago, and like back and forth. And it's usually a very engaging and entertaining sort of discussion. And no matter which side of the conflict you're on, or if you're a completely neutral party, you'll find some arguments you agree with and disagree with from both sides. And then from that, you can sort of build your own view. And if you were to suddenly be thrust into that debate, you would have a series of arguments as well. Or even if they traded it back and like he did a bit and then an enemy person came on and gave a bit of a testimony as well, then you'd be able to at least like pick a narrative which you favored more. But we didn't see that this time. My suspicion is that, yeah, the TKR people really don't want to antagonize anyone. They don't want to burn those bridges. And on the Eclipse side of things, they don't want to go out and say, we're victorious and we're amazing and we're going to smoke them, only to lose. That would be devastating. So I think if Eclipse had very clearly won initially, if they'd smoked them, they'd won, they'd obliterated all of the active people, if no one from Grumpy had even logged in, Eclipse would have gone on there and said, no, we are amazing, and of course we're going to win, and of course all of our reasons for war were justified, and we mean it, god damn it. They would say that. But because it hasn't happened, yeah, they're not going to. And in that scenario too, I think TKR would also be a lot more bitter. But if TKR wins this, and they don't say anything, they can also be sort of humble in their victory. Like if they're not going to conquer the whole game using this opportunity, they could just take the win against Eclipse and then be very humble and say like, your justifications for war were misguided. We'll forgive them. Now take this defeat and walk away, and that will earn them a lot of reputation, a lot of regard from the other spheres. So both sides are playing it reasonably well, and we will learn more in the next 24 hours, I expect. I'm a bit disappointed by EVH though. I think EVH really should have gone in on what's it called, House this turn if they were going to do it, because delaying it 24 hours, if they're going to help at all, is really bad for them. It's really bad. I don't know who I'm rooting for at this point. I guess I'm kind of rooting against House. Like, I don't necessarily want them to beat Eclipse. How do I put it? I don't like TKR. So on one side, I want TKR to lose. But I also don't want Eclipse to lose. Eclipse has had a lot of wins, though. A lot of wins. This is like their third or fourth win in a row. I don't know. I don't think I have a side in this. Not EVH. House winning would be extremely entertaining. It would make for fantastic content. But I also just don't think it would be great for the game at large. Purely because I don't want TKR winning. Like, whenever they win, it sucks. It sucks for everyone. And also, yeah, conquering the whole game would suck for the rest of the game combined. That is fair. If you don't like Eclipse, that's a good reason to not want them to win. Oh, good question. Like, what about the non-aggression pact? Irons, aren't you in VM right now? We will find out soon. I expect he's in VM. Oh, he's in ARG. Are you in VM in ARG? It could be a different EVH person I was hearing someone talk about, and it wasn't Irons, but it was someone like that VMs in every war. Anyway, I don't know how long this non-aggression pact will be after this war. Eclipse likes to chain non-aggression pacts. So in Eclipse's shoes, they'd want another 3 to 6 month NAP with Grumpy. And then that basically gives Eclipse total security for that time and guarantees they outpace Grumpy and they just win that whale war. Whereas on TKR's side of it, TKR probably doesn't have the incentive for a nap. TKR would probably want to go without a nap. Because that avoids any sort of nap cycling, and it also allows them to set up more wars against Eclipse in the meantime. Which, like, for context, so Grumpy has a finite number of people that it's growing, right? Whereas Eclipse is much larger, and they're growing more people. So 6 months of peace for Eclipse means that Eclipse will get the lead over Grumpy. Whereas if Grumpy does like a month of peace, then Grumpy can use the slight numbers advantage it has at the moment, or the equal numbers it has at the moment, to try and score some more wins and delay Eclipse's inevitable victory. From TKR's perspective, though, I guess that's more Grumpy's perspective. From TKR's perspective, they are way behind. So TKR probably does want a non-aggression pact, and a long one at that. So Grumpy and TKR's interests probably diverge on the topic of non-aggression pacts right now. That's my understanding of it. Okay, you're fighting on the TKR side. Why are you fighting on the TKR side? Is it that you don't like Eclipse, or is there like, or is it ARG as a whole is fighting on TKR side? Oh shit, I wasn't intending to publish that. I'm gonna save that for now. That is quite funny. I accidentally released the last stream just straight onto the main channel. Like, I want to set up the streams as like being separate. Like the PNW stuff is separate. Like, it's not mainline videos, so I don't know how. I'll review that later. Yeah. Nuke Squad on Nuke Terroring Alliance was already involved in fighting LOD. Oh, so he's mercenaries. Okay. That's interesting. I mean, how much were you getting as like a merc in this conflict? Because from what I remember, like mercs were not being paid that well. But this is probably one of the few exceptions where, like, I think you're city 35, city 40, so you're probably making quite a bit of money. Like, that's one of the most important tiers for them. Like, I would say at least like $1 billion. If you're not getting $1 billion, you're probably being underpaid, which isn't unusual again because mercs just really haven't been doing very well recently. The big alliances just aren't dedicating that much money to it. Okay, so expenses covered. Your expenses are probably going to be up there than like 700 mil plus if you're like actively fighting. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, the way that you want to approach contracts in this game is you pick a side. Like right now, if you're City 24, right? You would approach TKR people and you would say, cover my expenses and give me X amount of money for each person I defeat, like the military. And then they'll pay you per person. Yeah. So if you can go into it and you like do like 6 nations and today, then yeah, they'll pay you that. Or you can just do a lump sum. So like 50 mil a day or something. I mean, you can do that now even. They probably don't want to do it when they're losing. No one hires mercs when they're losing. But they'll hire mercs when it's 50-50 or when it's unclear. The moment the war's decided, mercs become useless. It's only in that limbo where they're useful. Though if I were in your shoes, I mean, I would be approaching Eclipse first for that sort of stuff. Because TKR might hire someone to help them win, right? Because a win for them is like a cherry on top, right? Whereas for Eclipse, if they attacked offensively, like a defeat for Eclipse is way worse. Like it's such a huge hit to their ego. So my expectation would be that Eclipse pays more. It doesn't matter if people like you or dislike you during these sorts of conflicts. I mean, if Camelot was like fully militarized right now, and we weren't as interested in playing to like the Sphere side of things, if we approached either coalition, I can tell you for a fact they're not even looking at like who's in the alliance. They're just looking at how many nations we have and going, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Doesn't mean they'll pay you great, but I mean, I don't think either of them care who you are. You could even approach both and just ask for how much they'll give you, and then you just pick the better offer. They'll look past it as much as you will look past it. That's a good way of thinking of it. Okay, people are talking nonsense in most channels now. I guess we can do one final check on the war, and then we'll probably call the stream. And I'll somehow fix the other one and get that up soon. I don't want a mainline video. I might do another stream and just like play the videos back to back, and yeah, it'll be like a late thing or whatever. Immortals in Pakistan. I expect the Pakistan reference is because like they were once in the same sphere. And maybe Pakistan was kicked out or like mistreated or there was some drama going on. I don't know. Sup, Crypto? WAP plus DB attack TLM and others. That makes sense. I mean, if I was WAP and DB though, I would be completely ignoring TLM. Like, they just do not matter in this conflict. They're terrible fighters. They're lower tier. Even the City 30s are like MPO people that suck. I would say, even if you were sending like a City 28 against a City 38, I would still like prefer that rather than wasting time and energy on TLM. They like all of their attention needs to be on the high tier. And sort of rescuing the Eclipse people. The only scenario where you would focus TLM is if you thought you were going to lose and you needed to secure the lower tier. because the only scenario where TLM is a bigger threat than TKR is if the conflict's in the lower tier, because TLM has more experience there than TKR, and more numbers. So that does not bode well for Eclipse. Very bad sign. Very cool, Samurai. Yeah, you guys will be raiding both sides, so I hear. And I wish you the best with that. Yeah, those are some mercenaries which are probably going to get hired during this conflict. I considered doing it myself, but I don't know. We're busy. I don't think we'll need to. You need to max your military. That's the one downside. Also for context on YouTube, because I don't want to get like blacklisted or something. Mercenary as in players getting hired by other players to attack person in a game. Or not even person, to attack another organization in a game. You can never be too careful with a war in which TKR is involved. Shout out to the Black Sheep. There's a bunch of small alliances that are like that. Yeah, you guys have a bunch of raiding groups that are going to do very well in this conflict. Not just as like intermediaries or like parties fighting for either side, but as smaller groups which can loot and raid the various coalitions and make a ton of money doing it. I think every beige is like 14%. And not only will those coalitions welcome the beiges, it's what I was telling Samurai people earlier. Like, if you give either side beige, they will love it. They will say, fantastic, congrats. Like, we're more than welcome to have it. More than welcome to take the losses to get raided, because it gives you that extra security. As long as you don't, like, destroy their units. But you also get, like, 10% of their stuff. And that's usually, like, 10 mil to 40 mil, and it's usually a bunch of resources, manufactured resources, which you can use in future raids and wars to your own advantage as well. So have fun, enjoy. If you're any small alliance, I would just be raiding both sides. And if they complain, tell them it's free beige, and you're not gonna like hit their main units. Maybe you'll blockade them or something. You'll rush navals. Only if like they aren't out of valuable stuff. Otherwise, if you do that, if you blockade them and they run out of resources, they'll probably get angry and they'll counter you. But if you're raiding people that have tons of resources, you're just filling war slots and giving them beige time. They can't directly ask you to do those things because that's against the game rules, but they won't argue if you do it. Aside from that, is there any final notes which we can touch on before this ends? I'll reset this. Drum roll. EVH attacked 2 AUG nations. I think EVH is killing time, or wasting it is more accurate. We'll pull this up, and they hit Irons. Okay, that is a decision. That is so weird. Why would they do that? One, it's hilarious that they hit Irons. That is just really funny. But like he was in the chat here. But two, why would they hit him if like they're not going to defend the others? Why would they be attacking Irons? Like he's a mercenary for a house. Like, he is in the other coalition. Whether you like him or dislike him or whatever, he's in the other coalition. So this is telling us that they're honoring the MDB. If I were in House's shoes right now, I'd be saying this is evidence that they're going to honor the MDP, and it's evidence that they're hitting our mercenaries to prevent us dealing enough damage. There's no reason at this point the House not to just roll EVH afterwards. It's so stupid. EVH should just go in right now. The only reason I could see like EVH being spared right now is if Syndicate was like backing them and saying like, don't you even think about it. if you think about going with going after EVH, like we will come in too. And maybe they might have the numbers to win that. I actually don't know. I think on paper, if Eclipse goes down, I think House has the numbers to take on EVH and Syndicate. They probably don't have the incentive to do it, but they could. Oh, that's a good question. Is EVH delaying their response so that more damage is dealt to Eclipse before they bail them out? That is a very good question. If that is their strategy, which it could be, they are really playing it close to the wire. Because wars are decided so quickly that by tomorrow, Eclipse will be like zeroed. Will be very close to zeroed. The high tier will at least be decided. And if the high tier is decided, EVH can't bail them out. So, if they were thinking that though, and they had Syndicate on side, then Syndicate and EVH could come in tomorrow and rescue Eclipse before the whole thing is over. Or late at night. But I mean, if you're doing it late at night, then you're not going to have the numbers that you probably need. Either way, this is going to be very close. You might be right. That might be their strategy, but if it is, it's such a like a risky strategy. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna call it. I'll fix the other stream and I'll fix this one, and then we'll have them both up. But my presumption right now is that, like for the conflict, my presumption right now is that House probably wins, unless things change, and that what's it called? EVH is probably gonna need to come in at some point before tomorrow, unless there's some like big diplomatic deal negotiated between them and House. Penta is safe. Hallelujah. Singularity is safe, but they've had to militarize, so it's expensive. And Rose is chilling, and I guess baited half of their membership into being online for no reason. Well, naval spam. That's always a thing. In every war, there's always alliances that have naval spam. But yeah, very disappointing. I can't believe it, actually, that so many people were wrong about, well, like, I think that people exaggerated how good Well was versus TKR and Grumpy. I don't know how much of that is like propaganda. Like Eclipse, like, will obviously push propaganda to say, like, Grumpy's old news, bad alliance, terrible military, and they want to do that because then they can recruit the whales from Grumpy that are active and that are skilled that don't want that stigma associated with them. And they can also recruit upcoming whales, like join the hip, new, cool whale alliance rather than the old Grumpy one. And I think to a degree they might have bought that propaganda. And that might have been the reason for the miscalculation. I could be totally wrong. It could just be a fluke. It could be life. It could be health. It could be a natural disaster. Act of God. Yeah, we'll see in 24 hours. And I guess maybe we'll do a stream then. Maybe not. It'd be cool to do an interview with either of the sides and sort of a recap on how it went down. That'd be really awesome. I don't think I could ever get one with what's it called, House, but maybe we can do one with Eclipse. But yeah, signing off. See ya. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this conflict as much as I did, or at least the start of it.